All right, thanks for joining everyone. My name is Davin Cook. I'm the Business Development Manager here at Gluu, and today I have a very special guest. I have Anne-Catherine Freeberg from BioID. Say hi, Anne-Catherine.
Hi, everyone. So nice to be here.
Fantastic. And BioID has been a long-standing partner of ours, and frankly, we use BioID every single day to get into our Gluu server. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about some new things that are coming out of BioID, but also to let you know that the BioID capability will be included in Gluu Solo. So Gluu Solo is our digital identity platform that will have launched by the time this video airs, and it will include pre-configured BioID so that you too can also take advantage of facial recognition technology with your single sign-on offering. So, Anne-Catherine, what can you tell us a little bit about the service that we're using today?
Yeah, sure. So as you said, the BioID is a long-standing partner of Gluu, and we've been on the market for more than 20 years, and we're offering biometrics as a service, which we were the first ones to do actually a few years ago. And so this means that authentication in the cloud is possible using facial and periocular recognition. And for unsupervised situations, of course, liveness detection is really important. That's why we also have proprietary liveness detection that has been ISO certified and has a specialty in security, of course. And so we are enabling trustworthy, almost face-to-face interactions in the online world, including identity verification and authentication with biometrics.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, again, we use this every day, and I'll be pleased to provide a little bit of a demo on how Gluu uses this. This is our login to Casa, which is our MFA user portal, their self-management portal, which allows you to bind and couple various MFA technologies. We here believe at Gluu that if you're going to fly solo, you should have a choice of MFA technologies. And of course, that includes facial recognition from BioID. So if I go ahead and log in, just using a username and password, or this could be passwordless. There we go. So I'm prompted for two-step verification, which in my case is super glue, but oh no, looks like I forgot my my phone at home and I don't have access to super glue. So let me try another way to log in. So again, we have the option of BioID, and I haven't been able to forget my face for as long as I can remember. So let's go ahead and log in using BioID. So it's going to ask me to look at my laptop camera, and I just move my head a little bit for liveness detection to ensure that I'm real and not a picture or a video. And it takes 4 pictures in our setup. And then it should verify that I am who I say I am and log me straight into the Casa application. And you can see that within Casa, we also have a re-enrollment capability here, so that if something changes on your face, you've lost weight over the holidays, hopefully you can re-enroll again. So with that, I'll go back to my slides, because we did want to talk a little bit about what you've done more recently, Anne-Catherine, at BioID, and introduce something called PhotoVerify. So what can you tell us about PhotoVerify?
So PhotoVerify is a service that is able to do identity verification. And the nice thing is that we combine face matching with liveness detection for ID ownership verification. So if you want to make sure someone actually owns an ID, but you don't want to ask them to go to a branch for the identity verification or do a full video ident process, which is cumbersome, you can use automated services like PhotoVerify. So you would send a few images, including one of the ID and 2 of the live person. And then we can say that the person was actually really there during the digital identity verification, and that the person is the owner of the identity document. And this can happen without manual inspection, so without a human having to interfere or check this process. And so this enables a lot of efficiency in various processes. Like I said, online onboarding for new bank accounts, for instance, or also password reset. So if you need to reset your password after holidays, just as we are right now, which can of course happen, then it's nice if you don't have to go to your administrator in person, but you can do that by verifying your identity with your identity document or with a database, for instance, an employee database. So you would just have a comparison of your live image and the employee database picture that is stored for you. And then your company knows it's actually you who is requesting a new password.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's very interesting, especially now with a lot of work from home. Many employees don't even step through the door anymore, and many businesses are moving to remote only work, which we're happy for. So with that, I'm going to hand this back over to you. Do you think you could do a little demo for us today?
Sure, that should be a good idea to show how the process works. I will shortly turn off my camera for that. Okay, so what you see now is the BioID playground. It's something like our sandbox platform where everyone can test biometrics. And I will sign in just like Devin did onto the BioID playground. Using my face as well as my password. So this was multi-factor, which is good for security, of course. It's absolutely necessary, I think. And what you can see here are the different demos that we have. We have a liveness detection demo, PhotoVerify, and others. And what I will show now, of course, is the PhotoVerify one, because this is what we're speaking about today. The two steps involved, I already mentioned them before, are that an ID document is sent, an identity document is sent, and live images are sent to us in order to make sure that the person is really there and that the person is the owner of the identity document. So what you can see here are the two steps that result in 3 images. Those 3 images are then analyzed by our BioID web service. And I will show you how this looks by first uploading a picture of my ID. So I already took those beforehand. I will just choose one. And you can see you don't need to send any identity information like your name and so on, because we are only analyzing the biometric part. So this is very important for privacy. And so this is the identity document. Then I will just take 2 selfies. I clicked once and then the second selfie was taken automatically because I moved. So we have a motion analysis in this. And then those 3 selfies are now compared. First of all, to make sure the person is really there, that I was live when I was taking the pictures and not presenting some type of fake. And then, of course, also if I am the same person as on the ID. So I will ask our web service to perform this operation. And you can see that what has happened in the background was a success. So our result says that we have a match on level 5. We have 5 different levels for PhotoVerify, depending on the security level you need. So the level 5 is the highest and strictest security level with a false acceptance rate of 0.001%. And well, yeah, so I was really there, which you saw, and I'm also the owner of this identity document. This is what the result says. I decided to just show you what would happen if I'm using an image instead of my live face. So I will redo this using a picture. So it's still me, you can see that, but the liveness detection will fail because this was an image. It's a 2D thing and not a 3D, and it's also not the skin texture that we can analyze. And so you can see here, oops, ID ownership could not be verified, and the reason is that the images were not recorded from a live person. Now, if I do live selfies, but take a different identity document, for instance, or I'm not taking a different identity document, I would just use a different lady. She looks maybe a bit similar to me. I hope. I was trying to find someone. And now I ask the system to perform the same thing. It says, oops, ID ownership could not be verified, but this time the reason is not liveness detection. This time the reason is it's not the same person. So this identity could not be confirmed. And you can see this is not an identity document, but it doesn't matter for this use case. We just need to be sure that we're comparing two faces. And so you can send an identity document, but you can also do the comparison with other pictures, of course. Yeah, and I also, for the liveness detection, I think this is a very important fraud prevention mechanism. So I decided to show you another time using my own document again, but a video in this case, which is more sophisticated, of course, than a picture. And I will ask the system to perform the same test again. And again, as you see, live detection has failed. So the two different steps always have to be successful, of course, for us to accept an ID ownership verification. As you see, this happens in real time. And yeah, as I said, no manual inspection has to take place at this in this process. This is fully automated and happens in the cloud.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's very clever, you know, and honestly, we don't need to understand how the technology works or how you're able to do this. The fact that, you know, the technology is so easy to use, I think, is one of the best aspects of it. And of course, there's a score assigned, the false acceptance rate, so that a organization can make a determination whether another form of identification needs to be provided during enrollment or login. So this is, is fantastic.
You can also do something like a step-up authentication. For instance, if you only reach level 2 or 3, you can ask the employee or the person to do another form of authentication as well. And what I actually forgot to show you is that I also have, oh no, I don't. Yeah, here. I have an image of mine when I was 18. So I do look a bit different. It's been more than 10 years since then. And we will try the verification as well. And you can see it still verifies me on level 5. So even, yeah, a lot of years have gone by and I wear glasses now. I didn't wear those on the image. The system is very robust and is able to verify people even if they changed or even if they aged, which is normal because identity documents are issued and then normally have a validity of 5 to 10 years. And so our system is able to cope with this as well.
Right. And anyone can try this on your website. Is that true?
Yep, you can go to the BioID playground and just register for free, and then you can test as much as you want. As I said, you can also test our liveness detection, so the fraud prevention part is here alone, and our normal verification, which is what you saw for Gluu Solo, or for the login you just performed. This was verification, so you can, of course, try our biometrics there.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I invite people to go to the bioid.com and try this and see if they can fail it. I happen to know that I can't, so it knows really who I am. So with that, let me just share my screen again, and let's get to some questions for Anne Catherine. So you see here. And share screen and screen 2. Okay. All right, so this comes to the end of our little presentation, but I did have a few questions for you before we go. So what do you think is the advantage of using PhotoVerify for sort of in an eKYC, know your customer environment?
I think if you compare the process of doing identity verification in a manual way to this automated solution, definitely an advantage is the time and the efficiency. You have the availability 24/7 instead of having to go to a branch. So from a company's point of view, of course, it's very cost efficient. And from a user's point of view, it's very quick and easy to do. So I think today everyone expects to be able to open a bank account 24/7 and not just during office hours.
Right.
And then, of course, we have COVID. So a lot of services have moved online, like government services, for instance, but you really want to be sure whom you interact with online. And that's why this digital identity verification is a crucial step. And it's important to do it in a secure way. And that's why biometrics are a very good way to bind your identity document to the person who's actually submitting it.
Okay, yeah, and you've mentioned a number of use cases. Clearly, government, it makes a lot of sense where there's a photo ID issued and then there needs to be some form of verification. We've talked about onboarding a little bit. Are there any other use cases that that this is ideally suited for?
Yeah, I think what's also very interesting for Gluu Solo for companies is the password reset or account recovery scenario. We know that IT administration is a very costly process, that people actually forget their passwords very often. And it's also kind of the weak link, the password reset scenario that is in place for many companies. It's the weak link because it's so easy to exploit. You just need to pretend you are the one who wants a new password, and then you have it, and you can access accounts. So I think password reset is a very good use case as well. You can do that in different scenarios, like I already mentioned, if you have an employee database or also a governmental database from the citizens, then you can use this as a comparison. Instead of asking the user to take a picture of the identity document, you could ask the person to enter their employee number, for instance. Then the picture would be retrieved from the database, and then you ask the person to take a live selfie, and this live selfie is compared to the database one, and then you can be sure that it's your employee asking for a new password. And the same for, as I said, citizenship databases, you can do the same. And I think a very broad application, of course, is KYC, know your customer.
Right.
For banks, for insurances, they really need to be sure about the legal identity of the user they're interacting with. And yeah, so this is a very good use case, like opening new bank accounts or filing an insurance case and so on.
Yeah. And for workforce, I think I perceive that for step-up authentication or for privileged account management, if someone's allowed or has to be given temporary access to something, this is a way to ensure that there's no man in the middle, or that the person really is who they say they are, with that extra level of assurity, especially if the data is sensitive to the organization. So yeah, that's fantastic. So how do you prevent fraud when using PhotoVerify?
There are two different elements, of course. One of them is the face matching part. So we have a very accurate face matching algorithm that is proprietary and built by BioID here in Germany. And so we make sure that the person actually is who they pretend to be, or who they say they are on their identity document, through very accurate biometric matching. And then the other step is the liveness detection. So liveness detection can be done in very different ways, but it generally says you want to make sure the user is present and no fraud is taking place through replay attacks, through deepfakes, for instance, for videos, masks. And so we need to be sure that nothing is presented to the camera that is just imitating the biometrics of the person. So we really want to be sure the person is actually there, and that's what we do with our liveness detection. And it's very interesting how you can do that. We have two different steps. One part is artificial intelligence, of course, and then the other is based on our more than 20 years of experience, and it's using optical flow and is able to calculate the 3D geometry of the person in front of the camera, even using standard cameras, which normally don't have 3D information. So we combine different approaches there. And this makes the system very robust and very secure, which also has been proven in our ISO certification that we have for this liveness detection technology.
Interesting. Yeah. Talk about data privacy and GDPR. How do you manage that?
That's, of course, an important topic if it comes to biometrics. I know that it's a very important topic in the US as well, but also in Germany and in Europe with GDPR. The data privacy topic, of course, is on our mind always, as we're a German company. So for PhotoVerify, the nice thing is that you don't need to store anything. You send these pictures, but then we would just say, yes, this is the same person, or no, it's not the same person. We don't know whom we authenticate. We don't know in that minute, we don't store any data, and we will delete everything afterwards. So it's a one-time process. You only send the images and they are there for a few seconds to be analyzed, and then everything would be deleted because we don't need this information.
Right.
And you the company only wants to know this document really belongs to the person, the identity has been verified. But yeah, we don't need any additional information. So having a minimal amount of data is one thing, then not storing the data, of course. And we have dedicated data centers. So for US customers, we have US data centers, meaning the data would stay in the US. Right. And for European customers, of course, we have European data centers and so on. So we are taking care of data privacy on different levels.
Fantastic. Yeah. So with all that, so how is this priced? I mean, how does somebody buy PhotoVerify from you?
Yeah. So what you saw is that we need 3 images to do this identity verification. And per se, our business model is a pay per processed sample. So if you send 3 samples, we would count those. And this is how it's priced. So it's not a per user pricing. Okay. It's not a license that you have, but it's more like what you really use will be priced in the end. So yeah.
So consumption based.
Authentication time. It's consumption based. It's per authentication. Yeah.
Right. So if you had 10,000 identities in your database and they were sitting idle, not using PhotoVerify, you wouldn't be charged for them.
No, just what you actually consume as a company.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's a true measure of the cost. Well, thank you very much, Anne-Catherine. You've been very helpful in helping us to understand a little bit more about PhotoVerify. As I mentioned at the beginning of this, we'll be including integration with BioID, not necessarily PhotoVerify, but if you ask for it, perhaps we'll add it to Gluu Solo, and we'll look forward to hearing from you and your questions. And with that, I'll sign off.
Yeah, thank you.